Hi again. I was thinking, once you drive down the streets today, all you see is Starbucks and Tazza and all these places to have coffee. And probably the original place to have coffee and gather and solve the world's problems was not a Starbucks or it was not a Tazza or a Dunkin' Donuts. It was the back room, the kitchen of Conti's Seafood. That's where we all gathered through various parts of the day. There was no tables there. There was no chairs. There was no cash register. All coffee was always free, and we would gather there and we would solve the problems of the world. Certainly, we solved all the problems in Mount Kisco, but we had always had fun, and it was always you never knew who was going to be there. It was like if you watch the old Dean Martin show when he opened up that closet door and somebody came through, you never knew who it was going to be. That's the way the back door was at Conti's. You never knew who was going to walk through the door. Spent many afternoons there, and we had a lot of laughs. And of course, Butch always holding court back there. One afternoon, it comes in mind, which before I get to the point of the story, this one afternoon, this guy walks in who was I'm not going to say his name because the guy was a retired mobster, if there's such a thing as retired. But I guess he was trying to get out of the life or whatever. But he moved from the city to Bedford or Pound Ridge, and his first name was Mike, and older guy, and he was a lot of fun. But he used to call us all woodchucks. Whenever he asked us a question, we didn't know the answer to. He's you woodchucks up here, you pedicures. You don't know anything. You don't know what's going on in the world. You're living up here in the sticks. You don't know what's going on. That's the kind of guy he was. So one day, like I say, he's in there and we're all talking and listening. And again, the back door opens up and Butcher's wife, Lenore, walks in. And so we're all saying hi to Lenore and whatnot. So it turns out that she's got a little bit of a dilemma. Her car was ready to be picked up at, I think, Marty Motors or one of those places, had some work done on it, and she needed a ride to get, she was dropped off at the store, and she needed a ride to get up there to pick up her car. So uh, this guy, Mike, right away, he volunteered, or Butch volunteered him. I don't know which one or the other. But he was glad to do it, glad to take Butch's wife up to Marty Motors to pick up her car. So we all walked out the back door at the same time, and right behind the back door of Conti's is a little parking area there and an ice machine, but it's an area for one car only, and Mike's car was there. So we walked out, and this is going to be the car that he drove. Was going to drive Lenore up to Marty Motors, and Butch opened up the passenger door and to go in, and Mike threw a fit. No, 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 no. She got to sit in the back seat. That spot's reserved for my wife. That's the way those guys were. Those mobsters. They didn't want anybody to talk. And God forbid somebody saw somebody else other than his wife riding in the car, people would start to talk. Hey, Mike's got to go out or whatever. I mean, but just a little highlight on the back room. Anyway, years later, in the late '80s, I guess, I was back there, and my kids were young then, and we had a dog that gave puppies, had puppies. So it was like 11 puppies, and we gave them all away, and except I had kept two, I still had two, and I gave a bunch of Bobby Cardia and his wife, and these were great dogs. So Bush says to me, Hank, I hear you still got a dog left. I says, yeah. He says, my brother Johnny's looking for a dog. He says he needs a dog bad up in Maine. So I says, absolutely. I said, I'll bring him one down tomorrow morning. So he said, that'd be great. He said, how much? I said, no, are you kidding? No, for Johnny's, no problem. So next day, I bring the dog down, give it to Butch, and Butch is going to give it to Johnny. In those days, I was working a couple days a week at the Brass Horn, which was used to be Handkerchiefs, and then it was the Brass Horn again in the late '80s, early '90s. And I was working a couple of nights a week there. So I don't know, a couple of days went by after I'd given Butch the dog, and uh, I had forgotten all about it. A while after that, I mean, a long while, I went to work one night and parked my car in the municipal lot behind the Brass Horn, and parked my car. I was getting ready to walk in, and I saw right by the back door of the Brass Horn there was a car with a dog sitting at the steering wheel. So I said, "Oh, that's odd." And I got closer, and I saw that the dog was behind the steering wheel, and Johnny Conti was asleep, curled up on the other side of the front seat. And so I said, oh boy. So I said, Johnny, you okay? Oh, Hank, he said, I knew you were coming. He said, I was waiting for you. He says, I said, what's up? And he says, Hank, he said, I got to tell you, this is the best dog. Butch got me this dog from you. And he says, this is the best dog I've ever had in my life. I think his name was Charlie or something like that. He says, he runs the whole town up in Maine where I am. People love him. People feed him. People walk him. He's famous up there. He's the best dog ever. And he says, I tell you what, if I had $1,000,000, I'd give you $1,000,000 for that dog right now. If I don't have $1,000,000. And he says, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if I'm ever going to get $1,000,000, but I'm never going to get that you gave me this dog. And he says, I will make it up to you. I promise. I said, Johnny, it's not no big deal. I want you to have the dog. Give him a good home. No, he says, and everybody knows Johnny Conti knows. No, I'm gonna take care of you. All right, so we shook hands and he went on his way. I went to work. It's like 4 or 5 months later. I'm working at the Brass Horn one night. It's a busy Friday night, and it's like 9 o'clock. And young guy comes in. I never saw him before. He gets up to the door. I said, "Hey, buddy, what can I do for you?" He says, "Are you Hank?" I says, "Yeah." "Who wants to know?" He says, "I want to know." I says, "Yeah, I'm Hank. Who are you?" He says, "That's all I want to know, that you're Hank." He comes right back. So he leaves, and he comes back in 5 minutes later, and he's got a box, cardboard box that he's carrying, and he's struggling to carry it. It looks like it might have held something even smaller than a washing machine or dryer, but it was that big a box. And he says, "This is from you, from Johnny Conti. This is for you." So I opened it up, and it was boxes of frozen shrimp and just lobster tails and all the stuff that you would dream for. It was like the biggest fun box ever. But Johnny Conti never forgot. He always paid good, and I never forgot that. It was a great moment. But yes, everything happens in the back of that store, and probably still does. Gotta love it.